Welcome to another emergency live edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John
Oh my
Gonzalez
God.
alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. We just topped off of CBS Sports HQ after the news that one of the shoes that we were waiting to drop, Bill, we weren't sure if it was going to happen. It dropped. Jimmy Butler got out of Miami. He is on his way to Golden State. A lot of moving parts here. This was first reported by Shams, and then you have confirmed it, that Jimmy is on his way to Golden State. Andrew Wiggins is on his way to Miami, along with a protected first-round pick, according to Chris Haynes. Then there's some other moving parts here. Dennis Schroeder, we believe, is being rerouted to Utah. The Kyle Anderson component, as recently as seconds ago, we thought he was going to Toronto, but now, according to Shams, that part might be up in the air. But we're just going to focus on the Jimmy Butler component here, Bill. As recently as, a day or two ago, we were told that the Jimmy Butler to Golden State conversations had completely broken down. Then all of a sudden earlier today, the KD stuff had started to heat up. And then there were reports that KD didn't want a reunion in Golden State. So evidently the Warriors re-engage with Jimmy Butler. And I think, Bill, to my eye and to my mind, it looks like Jimmy was like, oh man, the music might stop and I might have to have a chair in Miami. And Golden State has been increasingly desperate. And I guess they just figured, hey, we can do this together. Let's do it.
I was in Vegas recently, and I was reminded that two desperate people can make for an interesting pairing. I mean, that's a reality in the world. It's a reality in basketball. And by the way, I want to give John some credit here. John has done 3 wardrobe changes, and 4 if you include him taking off his hoodie just now if you're watching on YouTube in the last 8 minutes. John and I got on with our guy Akeem Dermish, same outfits. Boom, Superman Clark Kent, new outfit.
We got the same exact outfits on. It had to be changed. We had some gray jackets.
So you went to a second outfit.
Yeah.
And then we got on this, and boom, different outfit. Okay, so there's a lot to process. As you and I have talked about, and as I had said, and I'm pretty sure today's Wednesday, but I honestly don't know what the day of the week it is or exactly what time of day it is. So I can't remember if it's today or yesterday or all the above. I had said, among the many things we had said, just that I didn't think it was impossible that the Heat would find a way for the Warriors to circle back to Jimmy and Jimmy to circle back to the Warriors, and for that maybe to be something after that had ended. And I can tell you now, in part because Miami thought, and they weren't sure, but they thought that there was a route forward that maybe the Warriors and Jimmy Butler would find an accommodation on the extension that you noted that reportedly he's doing. And look, the only person I'm sure is the winner here, and we can get into this however you want, John, but I was thinking about this as the news broke. There are the Heat, there are Jimmy Butler and his folks, and there are the Warriors. And the only group that I'm sure won today is the Miami Heat, because they needed a route away from Jimmy Butler. They've gotten it. I think what comes back is enough is they had told me, and we had talked about before the Butler thing got really, really ugly, right? When this first started, I told you they wanted pieces now. They wanted to compete now. And Andrew Wiggins helps that. And I suppose if PJ Tucker is coming, it kind of helps that in the aggregate. So I think it's a good day for the Heat. And it's a big question what it means for Butler and the Warriors going forward.
So to what the Heat are getting here, according to Chris Haynes, it's a top 10 first round pick this year in 2025, top 10 protected again next year in 2026. And then the following year in 2027, it would be unprotected. Jimmy Butler then signs a 2-year deal for $121 million. He had a player option coming up this offseason for 52 and change. I believe it was like 52.8. So it's slightly more money next year. And then another year on top of that. I think it's a pretty good outcome for Jimmy Butler too.
You do?
Jimmy Butler, yeah, I do, because look, he gets 1 extra year, right? And he gets out of Miami, where that situation was untenable. For Golden State, look, they don't have to unload Kuminga. They don't have to unload Podziemski. They don't have to unload Moody. This is, I guess, the best option. And it's only an extra year of Jimmy, right? I mean, it's like, okay, he's waiving the player option. So it's 2 years. So it's not that onerous, I suppose. But I'm with you. I think like Miami's a winner here. Jimmy Butler is a winner. And then we'll see on the Golden State end. But at least they get to hold on to Kuminga and Podziemski.
So I think you may be right. I'm sort of processing this in real time. And I'll say this to your point about Jimmy being a winner. Anytime you get to play with Steph Curry, if you actually care about winning in basketball, that's in the winning checkmark box. Jimmy Butler wanted to be a Phoenix Sun. That is where he wanted to go. And whether his agent explained to him properly or he understood properly that there was a Bradley Beal component that obviously didn't manifest, that Beal was willing to do that. That didn't happen. And yeah, he gets the extra year, but I think Jimmy Butler learned in this process he is not as valuable as he thought he was. Extra year, I think, is a good outcome if you're rationally assessing Jimmy Butler. I would argue that Jimmy Butler didn't rationally assess himself, which got him here in the first place.
Yeah, that's probably true. I would think, on the other hand, at 35 years old, when you've averaged 58 games over the first 5 seasons with the Heat, and even before the suspension, you ended up missing a third of the games for the Miami Heat and you haven't been available. And,
Right.
you know, there's a lot of mileage on those tires to be able to make $121 million. I know that like NBA salaries kind of warp all of our brains, but at 35 years old, he's about to make $121 million after this season, over the next 2 years. That's good work if you can get it. And he got it.
Can I just put that in perspective? That's the amount of money, more or less, that Luka Doncic cost him, or was not allowed because he couldn't sign the extra year on the Supermax. Like that's the amount of. It's
silly monopoly money here. Let's
really
talk about the basketball component here. Okay, so the Golden State Warriors, as recently as 2 weeks ago, Steph Curry had said, "Hey, I don't know that we should go and like empty the cupboard." They didn't really empty the cupboard. They ended up moving on from Andrew Wiggins. Thank you for your service, Andrew Wiggins. Dennis Schroeder never fit in. He didn't hit the ground running. And Kyle Anderson, yeah, you can go too. So it's a first round pick and Wiggins for Jimmy Butler. And you sort of like kick the tires on it and see if it'll work or not. How much better? Our guy Hakeem on CBS Sports HQ when we were just on was like, well, okay, like basketball wise, how much better does this make the Warriors? Right now, as we record this, they are 25-24. That's the same record as the Kings. That's the same who, by the way, traded for Valanciunas earlier today and Zach LaVine a few days ago. So that's the same record as the Kings. That's the same record as the Suns, who now might be just keeping KD. And it is a game better in the loss column than the Dallas Mavericks, who, you know, TBD on how that whole situation fits. But those teams are all sort of lumped together. Do we like them better or worse than any of those teams?
So there's still time for more deals to get done, as producer Aaron just pointed out, right? There are pieces that did move, Kuminga and Moody, that and others that mean maybe there's an upgrade that can come, or maybe. But I don't think they're that. So I'm skeptical. You made a really, I thought, compelling point and not argument. You just made the point that, like, look, it is Jimmy Butler. The Warriors are desperate. This could work. I'll just say like that. Presumes that he's going to be healthy. He wasn't last year for the playoff series, and it presumes that he's, I don't know, in good enough shape. Remember, there was a report through Chris Haynes. Don't worry, he's in great shape. If you have to tell everyone how smart you are, people might doubt your intellect. If you tell everyone how amazing you are at something, people might doubt that. If you have to tell everyone how great a shape you are in the middle of the NBA season, there's a worry there too. Also, John, I just think it's worth noting the Heat have the exact same record. I think it's the exact same record winning percentage with and without Jimmy Butler. So this isn't Luka Doncic going somewhere. This isn't De'Aaron Fox even going somewhere. I know Jimmy's good, but he's 65. He's not reliable. And even when he was on the floor, he did not make the Miami Heat markedly better. And on the one hand, you have Steph Curry, which enhances everybody. On the other, and this is a bit of a sop to our guy, producer Aaron, who doesn't love Steve Kerr. Somebody was right. I get all this info today, and somebody wrote me a little bit ago that they thought maybe Durant wouldn't happen. And when the sort of news came out that Durant didn't want to go to the Warriors, I said to them, yeah, it sounds like the guy doesn't like Dre. And he wrote back, yeah, but he also knows he doesn't want to be coached by Steve Kerr. And we got into a whole, whoa, this is a pretty high level guy. So there's also like, is Steve Kerr the coach? Like do you really trust Steve Kerr to find the right fit for Butler and to make it work? And I think there's Steph's great. A lot of open questions outside of that for me.
In terms of the rotation, sure, there are definite questions if we want to nitpick on Steve Kerr. I think the thing that Steve Kerr has always done the best is manage personalities. He's really good at that. And so Jimmy
has he though?
Yeah, I think so.
Draymond punched a guy in the face and everything fell apart.
Well, sure, I'm not sure that anybody is the Draymond whisperer. I mean, Steph and Draymond have been tight for their entire relationship in Golden State. And like you see Steph's frustration with Draymond on those situations too, right? Like Draymond is like,
and Dre ran KD out of town.
Yeah. I mean, like that, but that's what
how good is Steve?
Well, I mean, like I'm not sure like what you're asking Steve Kerr to do with Draymond. Like Draymond,
I'm just saying if he's amazing at the vibes might be. I don't know. I'm not saying.
Well, so here's the thing. More of a Draymond thing than I think.
But he's still there, John. He's still there though.
Yeah, and that's an organizational thing too. That's it's totally fine to, I think, question them about, hey, given the fact that you ran KD off at times, given the fact that you punched Jordan Poole, you've been suspended a ton. Like that's a reasonable question to say, hey, maybe they should have moved on from Draymond, but I wouldn't lay that at the feet of Steve Kerr that he hasn't fixed Draymond being Draymond.
I understand. I'm just telling you, there's some high level person who would, but you're right. It's in the weeds a little, but at least at this point, are we sure now that this is happening? What a crazy week. Are we sure Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler are going to get along when they don't get along?
Well, that's a great question. Like that is a potentially combustible situation on paper.
Very.
If you're telling me that you're swapping out essentially, because we'll put Schroeder and Slow-Mo to the side for a second. Essentially, you're swapping out Jimmy Butler for Wiggins. Okay, I think that's a win. But as you mentioned, Jimmy Butler healthy? And then all of a sudden, is Jimmy Butler going to actually play nice? Now, in Jimmy Butler's history, you have seen when he's been traded to new places, there's a honeymoon period generally. At the beginning of his tenure in places, he tends to get along and go along, right? That's amazing. The cat's here.
There's a cat?
The cat agrees with my position on Jimmy Butler that in the beginning of when he gets traded to a place, it's really great. Bring the cat onto the show.
Did the cat get on camera?
Absolutely, he should.
Okay.
He tends to be on his best behavior early, but as we know with Draymond and Jimmy, these things tend to be day to day. Let's call them.
I'm trading that cat for a bag of Skittles. By the way, as soon as he's getting traded, And let me add to that point. This is all right. We don't know how this is going to work. And let me sort of not defend, but make a point about Draymond Green that's worth noting that I know people might make on his behalf. You are allowed to F something up and learn from it. And sort of so I don't know where Green and Poole are, and I don't care. But maybe Draymond Green understands now that punching your teammates isn't great. Maybe there's a little bit more give on the give and take from Draymond Green. Maybe that experience and what has not been an amazing run for the Warriors since that happened, coming off that championship. Maybe he's also willing to make it work in a way that he wouldn't with a guy like Jimmy Butler a few years ago. And maybe these are maybes. Maybe Jimmy Butler being sidelined by the Heat, not having the juice to force his way to Phoenix like he thought he did. Maybe you're going to have a couple guys who are big alpha personalities who are a little humbled or a little more focused based on their recent histories of let's just go out there and hoop and try to win.
I think if you're Jimmy, you're probably pretty excited to be out of Miami, and you do get to play with Steph Curry. So there's that. We'll see what happens with him and Draymond Green. And then with the Heat as well, you solve a problem here, because that was a problem. And you and I just earlier today were like, hey, we're coming up on the deadline here. And if they don't find a trade partner for Jimmy, all of a sudden it's time tomorrow at 3:05 Eastern. So that's definitely something that they dodge a bullet on that one. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to continue the discussion about Jimmy Butler being traded to the Warriors, what it means for the Warriors, where they fall in the pecking order, if there's some more moves coming up, also what it potentially means for the Heat. Does this mean Kevin Durant isn't going anywhere? The trade deadline still happening, all kinds of stuff coming up on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
From sweet to elite to the Final Four.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc, a special emergency, another emergency trade deadline episode. It's just constant emergencies in the NBA is the best. It's just we have talked previously about the attention and the ratings and whatever. It has dominated this past week in just terms of conversation. It's everywhere. We want to thank everybody, by the way, who's joining us on YouTube. If you are joining us on YouTube, please hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. And that little bell symbol is really key between now and the trade deadline tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you click on that, you'll get notified when we go live. Apparently, we just continually go live, Bill.
Speaking of the madness, you tell me if you think this is funny or not. Earlier today, a buddy of mine who watches the show sometimes and is an NBA guy. He doesn't do it for a living, but he sent me, holy bleep, LeBron just got traded to the Celtics. And for half a second, right, for just a quick, I did it can't be. And then I'm like, oh, this guy's such an a-hole. But that's how crazy things have been. A part of me just was like, I guess I have to look.
I have to go and check. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
the Lakers are never trading LeBron to the Celtics, but it's been
yeah.
we've had so many of these emergency pods. Nothing surprises me anymore. Is
After
my
the
point.
Luka deal, nothing would surprise us anymore. So Jimmy Butler on his way to the Golden State Warriors. Let's go through. Let's talk about the Kevin Durant component. Do we believe that this now means that Kevin Durant is staying put? Because it sounded like he didn't want the Warriors, and then after that, like that was supposedly the big rumor du jour.
Can I do the big asterisk that after Luka Doncic being traded, I know nothing?
Yeah,
Nothing. Jon Snow is kind of the so. I had told you last night, right on the pod, that I had this sort of source that I usually trust, but
yeah, that's
they
right.
thought that Durant said Durant would absolutely not be traded, and I just didn't go with it because I couldn't get it confirmed, and not getting it confirmed was sort of unusual and kind of weird. There were some reasons, but so here's what I, by the way, found out. And I talked about this on HQ, but I don't think you and I discussed it because I only found out about it 2 or 3 hours ago. In Phoenix, my understanding is Ishbia has not, you would agree, covered himself in a lot of glory, and there is a lot of there were two factions in that organization of people, those who thought that Kevin Durant needed to be traded, that they had messed up, that the new CBA and everything that's happened has showcased that the only way to rebuild is to move on from KD. They were trying to convince Ishbia to do that. And there was another group of people, probably the wrong people, if we're being honest, but who said, no, stick with it. I think, John, those folks probably more telling Ishbia what he wanted to hear, because access to Ishbia means that you're in a pretty good position. When you have an owner who's not very good at their job, who takes bad advice, if you basically tell him what he wants to hear, sometimes that's job security. So it sounds like that Ishbia was actually kind of open to the idea of trading Kevin Durant for the first time, of doing the right thing, but never really got there, is my speculation, because I think there were different people trying to get in his ear, and I don't think that gentleman, Matt Ishbia, knows what he's doing or even knows how to process information, who to listen to. It's not like a normal general manager or even owner where you have people talking to you and you're taking different advice and you process it, right? And you have your process to figure out what you want to do. I think this guy's like, oh, okay, maybe. Oh, no, we don't. So I think that chaos was a factor in the Durant rumors, the very real chance he could have been traded, and maybe ultimately the fact that he wasn't.
They're all over the place in Phoenix. Nothing would surprise me with them. But if Kevin Durant doesn't move now, you did just go, like previously, they traded that 2031 unprotected first round pick to, or got that 2031 first round pick to Utah in exchange for 3 marginal back end first round picks. And we had
right. You mentioned
that would,
that's a great point.
Yeah. We had thought that that's what they were going to use to dangle in front of Miami in order to get Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler now in Golden State. So what are they doing with those picks? And if they're not moving Jimmy Butler, or if they're not moving Kevin Durant, now are the Suns now potential buyers for somebody or something to, like, just upgrade them a little bit, because they are in that pack after 5 at the Lakers. That whole pack that I just rattled off with the Clippers and the Wolves and the Kings and the Warriors and the Suns and the Spurs, who are now playing. De'Aaron Fox is on the floor. He looked great tonight so far before you and I had to do this show. There's all these teams that are bunched up. Look, I don't think that the Suns are any great shakes, but like they're in a group that could really do anything.
By the way, the De'Aaron Fox looked like Andy Dufresne the first time he got out of Shawshank and was in the sun. Like, oh my, this is he
looked
freedom.
Fantastic. So
he looked real good.
Yeah.
So again, there's so much rumors, but I had certainly sort of heard, or it was suggested maybe, that the Heat could have been in for Kevin Durant and the idea of a Butler Durant swap. And I do wonder to a degree if that was put out there. I don't think I actually reported it, but I talked to somebody about it, and I think it was out there just to pressure the Warriors in retrospect, because the Suns are done, right? I mean, what are they going to do? They don't have a lot of flexibility. Bradley Beal's not going to waive his no trade clause. Had Beal been able to be talked into trading that no trade clause, the Suns certainly thought their best chance to convince him was to move to Milwaukee. So the Suns' view, 3 days ago was, if we can convince John Horst, the GM of Milwaukee, to take Brad, then maybe we can convince the Heat that a Middleton in return is part of the package. Well, Chris Middleton's obviously a wizard, and so Bradley Beal's not going anywhere. There's no right. So and now that Durant's not going anywhere, I think he's not going anywhere. I think it's very clear. It seems like it. What are the Suns are in the second apron, and they don't have a lot of flexibility.
They don't have a lot of flexibility. It would be very Sunsy to convert that pick that would be potentially valuable into much less valuable picks and then just not do anything with it. Let's do, before we go through the Western Conference and where we think the Suns stack up now with those other middle teams here. Kevin Durant didn't want to go back to Golden State. It didn't end great with him and Draymond. They were butting heads quite a bit towards the end. And also there was that narrative that even though Kevin Durant won 2 championships with the Warriors and won 2 finals MVPs, there was still that narrative that, hey, this is really Steph's doing. And you're not going to, the Warriors, you needed the Warriors for those championships more than the Warriors needed you. Going forward for the rest of this year, who do you like better between Golden State? Still a lot of moving parts. Both the Suns and the Warriors could make more moves here, but as currently
That's a great question.
Constituted, would you rather be the Warriors or the Suns right now? Because they've got the same record and they just both,
It's a
Warriors
great question.
Just added Jimmy Butler.
My first answer was like a buzzer sound that means everyone loses. Like,
yeah.
My first thought is the Warriors, in part because of Steph, and I know how good KD is. And here's the thing about the Warriors, and I know we said this, but it's a great question, and I'll circle back to this point to answer it. There's lots of reasons to be skeptical about Jimmy Butler. There's a reason there was no market for Jimmy Butler outside of the Warriors and a team run by a guy who thinks he's playing fantasy sports in Phoenix. They're just like, and Butler, not, and just the basketball component is enough to be worried about Butler. 35, the money that he wants, not necessarily durable. And then you throw in the fact he was suspended by the Heat multiple times. That said, right, that risk being real, there is a Jimmy Butler upside. There is hitting the inside straight with this guy and him being able to play and him being focused and having a chip on his shoulder and having the honeymoon period you talked about and him not getting punched in the face by Draymond and him and Draymond kind of bonding over we're alpha jerk faces, but we can be that together and then being good maybe.
We'll do that together to other people instead of each other.
Right. Do you want to go out and pick on people that look like Jordan Poole? Me too. Let's do it.
Let's go bully other people instead of our teammates. Won't that be fun? No, that whole like Jimmy Butler motivated now that he's out of Miami, gets into the playoffs if he is actually healthy. Hey, let's see if we can make a run in the Western Conference. There's a non-zero chance that comes to pass. I mean, in the same way that we're like, oh no, it's going to implode because Jimmy and Draymond all of a sudden Spider-Man meme each other and realize that they don't like each other. Because they're just sort of both mean girls. Yes, there's a chance that it actually does.
They are both mean girls. That's so funny, John.
Let's go through the Western Conference here. Okay, you and I yesterday really both talked ourselves into the Lakers and Luka. The Lakers being 10 games over 500. Luka set to make his debut, barring any setback on Saturday. The vibes are good. 10 games over 500. The whole bit, right? In that grouping below, right? Let's do you like the Clippers better or the Suns and Warriors?
Am I talking on a the Warriors get in the play, the Warriors make it to the play and get in the playoffs, the Clippers are in the play, just in a vacuum.
I'm trying to figure out the group between Clippers, Wolves, Kings, Suns, Warriors, Mavericks, and Spurs. 2 of those teams are not making the playoffs.
I mean, I opened the season with a column saying, what a beautiful building, Los Angeles Clippers. Your team sucks, and so do you. So, I am not the right guy to add. So, and they're still 6, right? They're still, they're still bunched together, but they're still technically a playoff team.
They've had a nice season. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the answer is the Warriors. But again, full disclosure to the many of you apparently watching, and thanks for being here on Beyond the Arc. I may not be the astute observer of the Clippers that I thought I was, and they would certainly tell you that. But I'll take the Warriors.
Let's just do this to make it easier because we could go through each team and compare and do the whole thing. All right, you got to put 2 out as with before, and again, a ton could happen between now and tomorrow at 3 p.m. But you got to take 2 out of the group of Clippers, Wolves, Kings, Suns, Warriors, Mavs, and Spurs. 2 of those teams are not going to make it. And that is just brutal. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is now paired with Wemby. They might be too far back and have too many teams to climb over. They're 3 games back of the 10 seed. But the Warriors just added Jimmy Butler. The Mavericks now, we haven't seen Anthony Davis. We're supposed to see Anthony Davis tomorrow night. So we'll see how that goes. The Suns, who knows what they could end up doing. The Kings made some interesting changes with Zach LaVine, and now they add Valanciunas as their backup big. The Wolves, they're puttering along, although Julius Randle is going to be out for a little bit of time with an adductor.
Yep.
It's tough here. This is really tough. I guess I would go Spurs and then one of the others.
All right, so I'll answer it. We all like to bet on ourselves. I had said at the start of the year I thought the Spurs could push for a play-in and that maybe they could be in the mix. And that, so what the hell? I'll just double down on my own mistakes and my own sort of views. I'll go Clippers out, as radical as that sounds, because I do think the Warriors are man. You know what?
So tough. It is so tough.
I'm going to go Clippers, and if you make me pick two, and I want two from you too, I want to answer from you too because it's a great tough question.
I know.
I'll go Suns and Clippers out.
I'll go Spurs just because they are farther back and they have farther to climb.
3 back. Yeah.
So that is solely, and I really do believe that the Fox and Wemby pairing, despite the fact Fox is having a great game tonight and he was looking excellent in the mid range. He's not a great shooter from distance, and that's really what the Spurs could use. He's like around 32%, I believe, for his career from three. So not great, but who knows? I still like that pairing, but they have so far to go that I'll just take that as the easy answer, as the cop out. Then it's Mavericks, Warriors, Suns, Kings, Wolves, and Clippers. What? I don't know what to do here.
Pick one.
Yeah, I guess I'll go Suns. I don't feel great about it. Maybe I'll go Kings, Suns, or Kings. Can I take three?
I was thinking about the Kings too, but I don't want to utterly disrespect Zach LaVine, whose name has vanished from memory just because there's so much other that's happened. He's having such a great year.
He's having a good year. We talked about this. It's Chicago West. All of a sudden, you're getting the band back together. You're repairing DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. It did work early on when they paired those two guys. And Sabonis is a really good big. Now you've got Valanciunas to give him some of those minutes. Maybe it works. I don't know. By the way, while we're talking about the Bulls, we should mention that Shams reports that Lonzo and the Bulls have agreed to a 2-year extension for $20 million. Godspeed to Lonzo, man. He missed a lot of time with injuries. I'm rooting for him, and I hope that whole thing works out.
By the way, that DeRozan-Levine pairing worked when Lonzo was on the floor. I mean, that did like when Lonzo was healthy, they were markedly better than the majority of the time where he has been hurt. I like that family. I like his dad. I like his brother. I'm more of a LaMelo guy than you are. I want him in the damn All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, you love LaMelo. I'm more rooting for Lonzo. Lonzo came out and said his brother, they need to change the whole All-Star format because if the fans want to see his brother, then the fans should be able to see his brother. Otherwise, take away their vote. And what are we doing? And I think he's got some points there, but I'm happy that he's getting paid there and that he's playing basketball. All right, we're going to wrap this up because it's been nonstop and who knows what's happening next, but keep an eye on this space. As I mentioned, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for doing so. Click that bell symbol, subscribe to the show. If you click the bell symbol, you get notified when we go live, and who knows, there could be more trades tonight. We could be back up on YouTube at any moment. Absent that, tomorrow, big day in the NBA. Obviously, the trade deadline is 3 p.m. Eastern. Bill and I will be on CBS Sports HQ and CBS Sports Network tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern to discuss all the things that happen at the trade deadline. And when that's over, we're going to be back here on YouTube for Beyond the Arc to wrap up everything that happened in a crazy NBA trade deadline. Go ahead. And the cat might join us. What's happening?
And when that's done, you and I are going to drink, we'll toast a lot of beers.
Well, not until tomorrow night, because tomorrow night you and I have got Anthony Davis ostensibly making
we do have that
debut tomorrow night. So yeah, basketball just rolls on. So
that's true.
Watch the space. As I mentioned, thank you to everybody joining us on YouTube. Thank you to our NBA insider, Bill Reiter. I am John Gonzalez. We will be back, who knows, probably pretty soon, but thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you shortly.